Good morning, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. This is our Friday live question and answer class. Each Friday I come live and take your questions about the American accent, how to pronounce words, how to find resources, and how to learn and improve in American English. Some of you might be doing the 30-day accent challenge, where we get a new practice tip every day for 30 days. And if you're working your way through the challenge and you have questions about that, you can attend my Friday questions class. You can also email me or contact me via my website, speechmodification.com. So far in the 30-day challenge, we've been talking about pronunciation, both details and bigger patterns for the American accent. We've been learning about intonation. Okay, so we have our first question. Pascal wants to know how to pronounce didn't fast. So didn't. I would say, when I say the word didn't, I do pronounce all of the sounds, didn't, but I use a stopped T. So I don't say didn't with a aspirated T, I say didn't. And the N in that word is kind of a syllabic N, which means that there's really no vowel sounds there in that syllable. So one syllable is did, and the next syllable is nt. So I go right from the D to the N, and there's no vowel or very little vowel, kind of like a little schwa there. Also, didn't, that D in the second D in did is not really aspirated either. It's more of a stopped D. So rather than didn't, I don't release the air from did. I release it right into the N. Didn't. That's a good question and a word that people should work on saying. So I think, Pascal, I'll make you a video for didn't, because other people probably have this same question. And that makes me want to tell you a little bit about why to choose to use contractions. So Americans will almost always say didn't rather than did not. And if you say out words that can be contracted, it's correct, but people can hear that you're not American. It is an added element to your accent. So for example, rather than have not, people will say haven't. Did not, people will say didn't. Do not, people will say don't. Particularly if there's multiple verbs. If I'm saying I didn't have to go, if I say I did not have to go, it sounds very formal and it sounds noticeably different to the American ear. So I do have a video about contractions. You can check that out. Go to my channel page and search for contractions. You'll find that video. I think it'll be helpful in explaining pronunciation of contractions, how to practice them, and why you should use them. So thank you. That was a great question. So in the 30-day challenge, we've been talking about okay, and another question. Somebody's asking me about the word ain't. So ain't is slang for are not or isn't. I think people use it for first person. I ain't. They ain't. I guess it's used in different contexts, but basically I recommend against using it. Ain't is pretty much very informal slang and improper English. So you'll hear it spoken in movies, maybe even around you still. Certain groups in America will use it casually. But for the most part, I would say instead you should be using proper English and avoiding the word ain't. Pascal had a question. He wanted to know about American R. And I think you were asking me, Pascal, about where to put your tongue when you're pulling back to make the back R. So I'll talk a little bit about that, and if I'm getting your question wrong, please repeat it. So in order to make the sound, my tongue is pulled back. You're welcome. And it's in my videos talking about American R, I tell you about how to brace your tongue against the back insides of your teeth. So when I'm saying my tongue is not pressing hard against my teeth, and it's not really touching the roof of my mouth, but it has to be very close to the roof of my mouth, and it is touching my teeth. For me, the way my tongue is contacting there, I am touching the surfaces of my upper teeth. So both inside and along the part where I would bite. And actually this is a way that sometimes I can teach people to say R, is having them gently bite on their tongue in the back, and then move from biting gently on their tongue to releasing the bite but saying the So let's try that. Bite your tongue very gently, and then pull it tight, So if I'm going from the bite, I can feel where my tongue should be. I can feel that contact to the teeth, and then I can feel my tongue go from having to be more spread out and loose between my teeth to being more tight and bunched to make the American R. I hope that answers your question, Pascal. Ask me again if it didn't. So in our 30-day challenge, we've been talking about patterns for consonants and vowels. We've been learning to unlock the secret code of American intonation. And you can see from the titles of the videos in those 30 days, if you're looking for particular information, you don't want to go through the whole process, you're welcome, Pascal. You can find the elements of pronunciation or intonation that you're looking for. I also suggest going to my website, speechmodification.com, and looking at the practice materials, because that will help you know which things are most important for you to be practicing on. These techniques and tips that I'm giving in the 30-day challenge apply regardless of your native language, regardless of your level of accent. They will be useful for you. So some of them are very specific, but they're general to all accents and all speakers of American English. Pascal has one more question. Go ahead, Pascal. I'll keep talking, and when your question comes, I'll stop. So tomorrow in our 30-day challenge, we're going to be talking about how to pronounce your name. And I know that sounds strange. How would I know how to tell you how to pronounce your name? But we're going to be talking about the topic. Rizwan wants to know if we have audio materials. Yes, on my website, there are practice materials. Also, in my online courses, when you purchase an online course, or even when you get the free trial, there are MP3 downloads for all of the things that you'll be practicing in the training. So I suggest checking out my courses page and trying a free trial. You can download MP3s for practice. So yes, audio materials are great. Okay, Pascal wants to know if I'm listening to the vowel in bed and bad. Yes, so he's finding it very challenging to differentiate the and the vowels. So they're both front vowels. Bed is a mid-front, and bad is a more open. Those are challenging to listen and differentiate, but you will be able to begin to hear the difference. Stick with it. Listen to those minimal pairs, and also choose one of the two and work very consistently on that vowel. And what you'll find is when you're working on one vowel, you get more of an anchor point for it, and then it starts to be easier to differentiate two different vowels. Don't work on both at the same time if they're challenging to differentiate them. Select one, and I would say probably, well, it doesn't matter which one, but given your language background, I would say maybe focus on the vowel first. Because you're working on that one to not sound like an A and learn and practice the words on focus on that, and then as you work and solidify that vowel, you'll notice it's easier to hear the difference between the and the a. If that doesn't help you, I'll direct you to some additional materials to work on and practice for those. Okay, so I was talking about tomorrow's class for the 30-day accent challenge, and we're going to talk about the topic of names and how if you have a name from your native language or from your native culture, it can be difficult sometimes for Americans to say it correctly. So I'm going to give you some tips on helping Americans to say your name correctly, helping them understand how it should sound, and how to do that. So join me tomorrow for that class. I wanted to just let you know one additional thing, that if you're in the Seattle area, I am teaching a class, a continuing education class through CWU at the Sammamish campus. So check that out on my website. And sorry, I was just finding a comment. You're welcome, Pascal. Today's quick tip. So each Friday, as we're doing questions and answers, I like to give you something you can use right away. Rizwan wants to know about increasing his vocabulary as the journalist's way. So you're looking to increase vocabulary, but specifically for the types of things that you're hearing in the media, I'm thinking. So definitely, if you're looking for a particular set or type of vocabulary, reading is almost always one of the best ways, and looking up the words that you find as you're reading. So if you want to know how to speak or how to use words that you find in journalism, find some written materials that have the types of vocabulary you're looking to build, and then look up those words in context. Because as you're reading, you can often get more of a better guess of what a word means. Gives it some context, helps you with learning. I also have some resources. If you go to my blog page and you go to free online resources, you can find some recommendations for some vocabulary apps and other additional information for how to increase your vocabulary. I like reading online and on a Kindle because I can highlight the word and look it up in an online dictionary right away. Or even on my Kindle, if I touch on the word, it'll give me a definition for the word. And so then I can go back to what I was reading and see in the context, okay, do I understand what this word means? And that helps me increase my vocabulary. For dictionaries that I recommend, I like the Merriam-Webster's Learner's Dictionary because it's very good for pronunciation. So I would check that out. Pascal is asking me about speaking fast. I'm going to pull that comment back up, Pascal. You say he instead of she. Okay, so that's, I would say, habit from you're saying your native language doesn't differentiate he and she. And you're going to just probably have to slow down a little bit until you develop a better habit for using he and she, and that's an error that you're making because of language as opposed to pronunciation. But you can also practice on it to think about the types of situations where you're having to say it. And anything that you practice on, even if it's language versus pronunciation, you'll get more used to always pairing she with, I would talk about the things that you're actually talking about where you notice where you have the problem. So talk about colleagues, make sure you're using he and she correctly when you're thinking about it, and just try to bring your awareness to it as you're speaking more comfortably and casually in regular speech, and you'll be able to develop that. Okay. Great questions today. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm just going to give you a quick tip before our class is finished, and I would like to, for today's quick tip, show you how to navigate a little bit more on the website. So I'm always talking about in the 30-day challenge, go to my website, find this here, and I realized that I could be showing you. So I'm going to show you here when you get to the home page. Yes, it is definitely kind of a habit thing. So when you get to the home page, your menu across the top is going to help you navigate. You can also go, you can find information on my online courses, on my one-to-one training, and getting a free consultation. I really like helping you too, Rizwan. That's great. You can go, if you go further down, you'll find how to connect to the blog, where our free downloads are, and our free practice. You can also navigate there from the upper menu. The 30-day challenge and many of the resources that you're going to want are here on the free resources. Our blog has many videos and articles that will help you, and that's mostly reading based, although there are some practice materials there. What I suggest you start with is our online practice free trial. So that's where most of our practice materials are, including the 30-day challenge. Here's today's 30-day challenge. Now, we don't have the video there yet because I just did it, but typically, and you'll find there's the small talk video I talked about earlier, you'll find that for each day of the challenge, there's the video lesson, and then there are the practice materials. Sometimes there'll be an additional video. Yesterday I talked about spelling over the phone, so I included that video. And visual materials and written practice materials. So if you didn't make it to the class, or even if you did and you want to go back and sort of review, what did we talk about? What were some of the suggestions? Go right there to my 30-day challenge on the website. You can also find here on the side, you can find your way to practice materials based on pronunciation, based on your language, based on sounds by looking at those categories. And then the last thing I'll show you today is here on my store page. You can sign up for a free consultation. You can get a free trial of my courses, and you can see some of the different things that you can purchase and the free options. And I would suggest going to our free downloads. And there you can find information on accent patterns based on your native language, which for most people is really valuable information as far as knowing what patterns to be practicing on. It'll help you use my channel better and use my online resources better, because you can look and see, okay, this doesn't match me 100%, but my language background is, for example, Spanish or Punjabi or Greek or whatever it might be. And it'll tell you, okay, these are the things that the pronunciation patterns that you probably have when you're speaking English. Then you can use that to navigate and find which things to be practicing on and how to be working. You can also, on the website, upload recordings for me, get a free screening of your speech to get some direct feedback on your individual speech. So that's my tip for today. Go make sure you take advantage of the free resources we have. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel page, and you'll be notified when we're live for the 30-day challenge and for these Friday question and answer classes. Thanks so much for being here today and for all of your great questions. And if you missed the live broadcast but you have a question for me, go ahead and put it in the comments and I'll get back to you with an answer. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 20 of the 30-day accent challenge. Thanks for being here today. I'm Christine Dunbar. Remember, if you want to sound American, you can do it. SpeechModification.com.